Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents, where we're going to be looking ahead towards Boxing Day's clash between West Ham United and Southampton. Firstly, let me introduce you to our West Ham correspondent. I don't know if he's feeling as rough as me this morning. It's Chris Stone. How are you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Smarting from defeat, but it is what it is.
I wasn't going to bring it up, to be honest, mate. It's not. It's not a big deal. And our Southampton correspondent, Matt Samuels, in the house. How are you, Matt?
I'm good, thanks. Other than being, boosted and feeling a bit rough, I'm all right.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at the moment as well. So if I sound a bit hoarse, it's a combination of booster jab plus Tottenham playing last night has meant I sound like I'm recording from a space station. Although for those on YouTube, Matt looks like he's recording on something from about 50 years ago.
I don't know what's going on with the lights.
Before we talk about your clubs, guys, I want to get your opinions on the big news in FPL yesterday that all FPL managers are going to receive a second free hit. Everybody will have two. Those who've already used one will get one more, and those who haven't used any will have two free hit chips. The only rule with them is they cannot be used in consecutive game weeks. Chris, I'll come to you first. What was your thoughts when you heard the news?
I was quite surprised they did anything, actually. It's quite an unusual step. I guess, at the end of the day, I know people sort of been on Twitter, there's divided opinion, but at the end of the day, everyone's got it. Everyone's on the same playing field. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's quite good. It takes a bit of the luck element out. We don't know how many games could be affected. It could be 1, 2, however many, but it gives you a chance. If you get to a situation where you've got, I don't know, there's like last week, there was 5 games off and it just so happens that that's half your team gone. That's just pure bad luck. You can't plan for it. You could have a squad of 15 and still end up with 6 or 7 players. And then, you end up, someone in your mini league just by pure luck has got 11 players playing and they're sort of 20 or 30 points ahead. So I'm not against it. I don't think it's a bad thing. I even said, I think it was Adam Rockcroft, and he commented on the thing. Maybe he's given a free hit every week for like 2 or 3 weeks or something, just for that pure reason of the randomness, or if there was a certain number of games called off. But then obviously it's quite difficult to implement. So I'm okay with it. Everyone's got it. No one's advantage or disadvantage more or less than anyone else. So it is what it is. Get on with it.
I get the impression now, though, that now they've obviously had the meeting on Monday, the Premier League, and kind of confirmed if you've got 13 players and one available goalkeeper, it's game on.
Yeah.
Has kind of set some clarity amongst the league where everyone now knows where they stand. It makes me believe, I'm sure there still will be postponements, but it wouldn't surprise me if like every game goes ahead on Boxing Day, for example. It's like, it almost feels like the biggest problem has been and gone. What's your thinking, Matt?
When it was first announced, like Chris, I was a bit surprised. Obviously, last season they couldn't even pause the game weeks. Now this season they can write in another free hit chip. For me, I was a little bit frustrated to start with. Kind of the initial was that, people obviously took the risk last week to free hit into squads, hoping that players would play on the Sunday to then get another. But then I suppose the more you think about it, it's the fact that we've got all these double game weeks coming up. We've potentially got 2 free hits to target them, whereas they've only got 1. So there are pros and cons to it. But yeah, it was quite surprising.
I don't really care. In all honesty, that's what they've decided. That's it. Get on with it. I can't change it. I think there are pros and cons for people like me to now have 2. I don't agree with the idea that everyone goes, it's advantage for the casuals now. It's going to cover their problems. Listen, the less engaged players are still going to piss it out the wall and not be less aware than the kind of engaged Twitter community around fixtures and stuff like that. So got 2. Everyone's got 2. Let's get on with it. What most people are going to do by the looks of it is use 1 in game week 22, which we think is going to be a big double, and probably use the other one to cover the FA Cup quarterfinals in game week 30. That's the general consensus among most people at the moment. And before we talk about your teams, Chris, I want to kind of bring you into game week 22 specifically, because if your Norwich fixture goes back in there, it's Leeds at home and Norwich at home.
Yeah,
it's like a wet dream, isn't it?
It's pretty tasty, isn't it? In theory, if we can score a goal or that kind of thing, but on paper it looks pretty good. I'd say you'd have two players. I'm not, 3's always pushing it for, even though we're doing well, there's always that level of inconsistency that can creep in. So 3 might be pushing it, but I'd be quite happy with 2. it looks that you've got to play the fixtures sometimes, and that looks like if that happens, that's pretty much as good as it gets for a team like West Ham.
I think if I'm free hitting that week and you've got that double, Chris, that's 3 West Ham players going in, mate. No doubt about it. That's Antonio, Bowen, 1 defensive one. Thank you very much. Let's go.
Yeah, so it really depends on who's available. I mean, if Cresswell's there, if Zuma's back, maybe. Ogbonna's obviously out. If we've signed someone, but if it was the back 4 or back 5 of last night, and if Masuaku's in it, then I'd be a bit hesitant about having a West Ham defender in there.
I thought Masuaku was a baller, no?
He was a mannequin. He was just standing there. He's I don't know what he was doing in a couple of the goals. He's just standing there. He was just so flat-footed last night. He offered nothing, but yeah, he's one of them players. He's all right for a game, and then he has 2 or 3 bad games and maybe 1 mediocre one. But yeah, he's not up to the task. Missing Cresswell, which I wouldn't, maybe 2 years ago I would have not been saying, but he seems to make a big difference. It's just his positioning. His positioning is better.
And Matt, ironically, if you land with a double in 22 as well, yours doesn't look that bad. Wolves away and Brentford at home, potentially, if that's how it drops.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be of interest, I think.
I suppose Wolves away is always going to be tough. I think we'd struggle to break them down like most clubs. Brentford at home could be interesting. I suppose just all depends on who's fit. Obviously, we've got a couple of injuries, and the Christmas period always takes it out on us. I suppose we've got a bit of a deeper squad than we normally do, which is quite useful. But that's been stretched recently. I think we've got 4 or 5 injuries. But fingers crossed, come New Year, at least 2 or 3 of them will be back. Because at the moment, the likes of, say, Livramento, Broja, they're having to play game in, game out because we've got injuries, to the other 2 forwards, and there isn't really the cover there for Livramento. Yeah, we've got Perro and KWP, but they seem to be rotating. So, yeah, I think at least, say Broja's fit and you want a punt for a free hit, obviously to free up some funds, I think he could probably be the one.
The problem with them forwards at the moment is never knowing if they're going to play 2 games in a row.
No.
It's a little bit scary at the moment. Chris, how are you feeling about top 4 at the moment? It feels like since the Liverpool game, you've had a difficult run. I think injuries have had a lot to play. I think the loss of Zuma can't be understated. I mean, it's absolutely huge. And then to lose Ogbonna as well. What's your thoughts about it at the moment? Does it feel like it's slipping away a bit?
A little bit, but it doesn't feel like it's so far away that it's untouchable. But it's one of the, the more games we lose or draw or don't pick up points in over this period, it's going to be harder. I think Arsenal haven't got any Europe. Obviously, they've got the Carabao Cup, so that adds a few games in the short term. Maybe that gives us a bit of an advantage over this Christmas period, because between Arsenal and Spurs, probably they're the main ones really who are looking at that other 4th position.
You just pissed off some Man United fans, mate.
I mean, at the moment, on form, obviously, Man United will be looking at it, but there's nothing to suggest that they're necessarily going to be there yet. We still haven't seen that many games, have we, under their new manager? So we don't know. They might be if they start getting results. But yeah, we need to pick up points. I don't really think we'll get it. I'd be a little bit surprised. I think our squad's bearing the brunt of injuries, and it's mainly all in defence, and that's it. It's hard. Like you said, Bonner, Zuma, Cresswell as well. Even obviously having Ashby playing, who did all right, to be fair. He's a young player, but we're struggling in that area, and that's not helping us.
If I look at your fixtures up to game week 28, Chris, when you go to Anfield, you got a trip to Old Trafford in game week 23. Other than that, we've got Southampton at home, Watford and Palace away, Leeds at home, Watford at home, Leicester away, Newcastle at home, Wolves at home, and you've got the Norwich home fixture, presumably is going to drop in there at some point as well. Them 6 home games, Southampton, Leeds, Watford, Newcastle, Wolves, and Norwich, if it drops in, you'd want to be taking sort of 16 points out of a possible 18 from them, really, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
and that alone would keep you in contention.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we've got to hope for, because some of those teams, their squads are gonna struggle. They only need a couple of injuries, and hopefully that's where we can maybe take advantage. I mean, Villa would be quite a hard one, because they're a tough team now, aren't they, under Gerrard? But yeah, that's that set of fixtures is set up for us to do pretty well, really.
Yeah,
Sorry, not Villa.
No,
But yeah,
you're kind of right to mention Villa, though, because looking further ahead, actually, your home games after Liverpool, Villa in 29, Everton in 31, Burnley in 33. And then you're nearly at the end now. All that you've got left after that, I mean, it ends with Arsenal and Man City as your last two home games. What a stretch of home fixtures that is.
yeah. No, we have got some good home fixtures, and we've been all right at home. But we've been better. And I think the support side of it has helped this year. So I'm hoping that we don't know what's going to happen there, do we, with supporters and whether or not they'll be in the stadiums over Christmas.
Stop ruining my morning, Chris. Honestly, mate. Matt, what are Southampton? Are Southampton the team that's won less games than Watford, or are they the team that's lost the same amount of games as Arsenal?
Lost the same amount of games as Arsenal. I'm going to say that all day long.
What are you? I'm not sure I'm putting my finger on it at the moment.
I can't either, mate. We're a club that we have an owner that won't put any money into the club for a start. We've been actively looking to sell the club, I think, for the last 2-3 years, and a couple of deals have fallen through. But I think Dan Sheldon, the athletic correspondent for Saints, continuously states that the club is still actively looking, and until we get that, we're going to be kind of reliant on, obviously, these loan signings and kind of selling to buy, which means that we're never going to get to the heights of the Europa League that we had 5-6 years ago now. The days of traveling to Milan, I think, are long gone, until if someone comes and buys the club. And given the other opportunities in the Premier League, I think that's unlikely at the moment.
Is this therefore where you should be, 15th? Is that roughly where Southampton should be in the league?
I think between 10th and 15th is going to be our standard position for the foreseeable. Yeah, I was impressed with the signings we made in the summer. It was good to see us actually go for young talent again. So obviously, like Livramento's came in from the academy of Chelsea, Broja's on loan. Hopefully we can sort something, because I think it's just a season at the moment. But again, there's views of the contract and how we approach that. Do we discuss now? Do we discuss again in the summer? And then another lad called Semeyu, I think, came from Chelsea. He's in the B team. But we actually went for young prospects rather than just bringing in players, that could be covered for a couple of years. And that was partly why I was surprised by Caballero. I was really surprised we didn't give Harry Lewis a shot. I think he's performed pretty well with the B team, but I suppose it's him, and then it would be, effectively a child that would be the reserve keeper. So they brought him in, but I was a little bit disappointed that Harry wasn't, given the opportunity.
What do you think of Caballero?
He made some howlers, I think, in the first game he played. Didn't think he was that impressive. He played okay in the Palace game, but he's definitely not a long-term kind of option, I think, for the season. Obviously, the view is McCarthy or Forster will probably be back come January. Whether that's a good thing, I'm not so sure. But it's frustrating because it feels like the club have put themselves between a rock and a hard place, because we've got two effective first-team keepers that are on good money. McCarthy's just signed a new contract, and the only way we bring someone of merit in is if we get Forster out. No Premier League club's going to take him, because he's going to have to take the step down, and I don't know if he's willing to do that.
You got a tough run coming up, mate.
Yeah,
West Ham obviously at the weekend. You play Tottenham in 20 and 24. You got the Wolves game in 22, which could make it attractive double. But then either side of the second game with Tottenham, you play both Manchester clubs. Then there's quite a nice run from game week 26. Are you looking over your shoulder?
Slightly. We do tend to perform quite well against the big clubs if we're on it. Obviously, we've seen the City game earlier in the season, United game again at home. But it depends on how we set up. If we go into the game naively, like we saw in the first half against Liverpool, we'll get torn to shreds because we don't have the quality there. If we can approach the game in the right way, there's no reason why we can't take the odd draw from these games. But yeah, I'd be come mid-Feb. I think if we're down there, we're really going to have to take points from that next 6 run of games. I think it's 26 to 31. That's a a lovely run of fixtures, and we're probably going to have to target at least 12 points.
Yeah, that run, just to clarify, is Everton at home, Norwich at home, Villa away, Watford at home, Burnley away, then there's Leeds away as well. That is a nice stretch of fixtures. Then you walk into tougher games again. So, I mean, I think this next period, just keep yourself ahead above the water and then see off the job over that period. I think from game week 26 is what you're looking at.
Agreed.
Chris, Michail Antonio. This has become a bane of everyone's life for those who still own an FPL, I think. So everyone held him finally through the difficult fixtures for the Norwich game, which got postponed.
Yeah.
And now no one has a clue if he's going to play on Sunday or not, because the word obviously before, there was large rumours yesterday on social media that he may have COVID. David Moyes confirmed it before the game last night, but then said last night after the game that he couldn't rule him out of Sunday and he wasn't very sure. And I don't know if we're going to get a press conference to confirm one way or the other.
No,
Michail Antonio,
because we don't know when he actually unless he come out and said he tested positive on day X. You've got no idea, have you? Because
no.
So that by him saying that, it would indicate that it was within that 7-day period. So that if he tests negative on the Saturday or the Sunday, then he's going to be potentially available. I'd be surprised if he's available for that. But then he'd be available. Sounds like he would be available for the next game. I mean, they said he's got no symptoms. So.
My part thinking was, we've obviously only 2-day gap between Southampton in 19 and Watford in 20. Was he going to play both anyway?
Yeah,
probably unlikely. I would have thought, even if he was in peak condition, because I think West Ham quite rightly have done a really good job this year of actually protecting him from injury, because we know that he is prone. He hasn't had a real injury yet this season. What would you say to those who've got him, Chris? Is it still hold?
I'd say it's still hold. I mean, at the moment, unless you're using a free hit or something, then you don't really want to. There's almost there's no point making transfers unless you've got a way of getting 15 people in your team that actually start. That's probably the priority, because you don't know if another player is going to come down with COVID. So you take him. You know, I made the mistake last week of because I was going out. I did the transfer of Watkins. You know, at 12 o'clock. And then
Chris, a million others did that as well, mate.
So you know that could happen. That could happen again. You know, a game called off at the last minute, and that player, or not even the game being called off, but the player not available because of COVID. So who are you bringing in? So I'd say unless it's an injury, it's maybe not worth it. It depends when it hits as well, because if it's bang in the middle, you know, if it's say they've got it on the 28th, then you know they're going to miss maybe 2 games, then it might be worth it. But with Antonio coming back, like you say, would he have played both of those games in a short space of time?
Very doubtful.
Very doubtful. Probably certainly wouldn't have played 90 minutes in each. So yeah, it's just hope for the best. I would have preferred him to play in the Southampton game, if I'm honest. That would be the game I would prefer him in, because he always does quite well against Southampton in terms of how he plays.
Does that include his red card the last time he played them, mate?
Yeah, that includes that, yeah. Thanks for that one.
I don't get how the rule has changed, where for those who missed it, it now seems to be that it's a 7-day isolation period rather than 10.
Yeah.
Considering the state of the country at the moment, I don't quite know how that's now less time than what it was. I mean, from a football perspective, we're not going to complain, I don't think. Matt, what about your forwards at the moment? We touched them a little bit in terms of the concern about, does Broja's the one, really, isn't he, because of the price? Yeah. But how often is he going to play? I spoke when I wildcarded that I was considering having him because he's a player that I'd be happy to bench. Whereas in comparison, say, Emmanuel Dennis is a player that I wouldn't want to bench, just because I'd have no clue week to week whether Broja's going to play or not. But I mean, would you like to see him play every week?
Yeah, I think he's a talent. In the games that he's been given the opportunity, he's taken them. He's scored a couple of goals. I think he played very well against Palace. So he got the assist and the goal there, and it was a brilliant finish. But for quite a tall guy, I was impressed. But he's strong. He's got pace. His finishing is top notch. Sometimes he has a tendency to try and cut back onto a stronger foot, or he'll turn in the box and the opportunity goes. But I think in terms of the tenacity that he's got and getting the crowd behind him, I think he's probably our best forward in that sense. And obviously with both Adams and Adam Armstrong out for the last game or two, he's had to, and he's really stepped up. But he always looks like he wants to drive forward, and it's great to see. And obviously, he's a young lad, links up really well with Livramento. You can tell that obviously they've played together, which is always a positive. They're kind of looking for each other when they're driving forward. But yeah, I'd say if you wanted to take a punt, Broja could be a good option.
Little trivia for your match. You know which one of the three forwards, Adams, Armstrong, and Broja, has got the most FPL points?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was Broja.
I could let you have 20 guesses, and I don't think you'd get it right, mate. Even though there's only 3 options. They have all 3 of them all on the same amount of points.
Oh, wow.
47 FPL points.
That shows how little I check our forwards.
But the other 2, Adams and Armstrong, wouldn't be under consideration at the moment, would they? I don't think. What did you make of all 3 of them started at Anfield, didn't they?
Strange.
What did you make of that? Because it was.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the lineup, I thought, wow, like
getting battered.
Yeah. It's great to see we're going for it, but as soon as they bypass that front 3, there's nothing behind. And obviously Liverpool showed that for the first 30 minutes. They could have blown us away 4, 5, 6 maybe, and they probably should have, to be fair, arguably. But yeah, I think even Ralph in his press conference afterwards admitted that it was a mistake. We can't go into a game like against Liverpool and go that way. I don't know why we did, because we showed that we can set up in the right way against the likes of City and restrict them to one. I think they had 1 shot on target, obviously Sterling's offside goal. But other than that, it didn't threaten at all. And to go into Liverpool at Anfield like that was horrendous.
Yeah, when I saw the team, I was like, that's either genius or it's a little bit suicidal. When it fell on the side of suicidal, unfortunately. We've also seen times where, and that was a parting case of 3 at the back.
Yeah.
It feels like it's dependent on Liang Cao.
Yeah, agreed.
In terms of the system you play. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
What's his role, and can he not play in a back 4 basically, or?
No, I think he's been trying to find a way to get them all in. But for me personally, I'd like to see Liang Cao and Salisu if we play a back 4, because there was a game in the cup against Chelsea before we got knocked out on penalties, and the 2 of them started together. They were solid. And I think Bednarak is prone to the odd error. Obviously, Stevens, we've seen him year in, year out. Yeah, he's got passion for the club, but I personally still don't think he's Premier League quality. So for me, yeah, Salisu and Liang Cao should be the start, and either back 4 or back 3.
It feels like Bednarak and Stevens have played for you for a long time. Is that how it feels a little bit? I was really impressed with Salisu when I watched your game against Villa. I thought I've had my eyes on just about any Premier League player who's got a left foot at the moment. So, I mean, he stood out to me on that particular night. So you would like to see the team play a back 4 with Salisu and Liang Cao, basically?
Yeah, agreed.
I guess for yourselves, Chris, it's a case of Diop and Dawson. If anything else happens to the 2 of them, then it really is crisis at centre-back, is it?
Pretty much. I mean, Johnson could fit in there. Cresswell could fit in there. Baptiste could come in the under-23s, but he's only 17. So yeah, it's pretty much. It's in terms of experience, it's pretty much oh shit. If that happens, it's struggling as it is really with Dawson and Diop. They're the sorts of players that are okay for a few games, but to play all the time, it's just they're going to make mistakes between them. Dawson's good in certain aspects. He's very, but he sometimes gets caught out, or he's too aggressive and gets done that way. And then Diop just, he either loses concentration, or I don't know what goes on. I mean, there's a moment last night where I think Diop was going forward at one point. Rice looks over, I saw Diop and just turned the other way. Didn't want to pass to him. So we need Zuma back because we haven't got Ogbonna. I mean, I'd be very, very surprised if we don't sign a centre back, whether that's a permanent or a loan of some description in January.
Yeah, I imagine you definitely will. There's a few games to obviously get through first. If you do, who plays, Dawson or Diop?
I'd probably say Dawson, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's what makes me nervous at Diop, because I think every week I've been looking at Diop at 4.3 and going, that's all right. And you look at it and go, well, yeah, Zuma's out, Bonner's out. He's got to play at the moment. But it might only be 3 more game weeks or so, and then you're looking at it and another centre-backs in the club, for example. And then I think you're right. I think it's Diop that probably misses out if you buy a first choice centre back. What about Johnson? It's 4.0. Looks a good player. He played right-sided centre back last night. I thought he equipped himself absolutely fine within the game. Is it too big a risk at the moment?
He is a risk, but I suppose to mitigate that is he could potentially play at centre back if we had to. He can play at left back. Obviously, his favourite position is right back. So it's a little bit of a lottery whether he gets back in. He's got a permanent place. So it is a risk, definitely. But I suppose he's low value, so it all depends. You know, if you're looking for someone just for the fact they're low value and you don't mind that he may or may not play, but you take that risk.
Yeah, I hear that. I think that's third sub material at the moment. But does anybody want to take that as a new risk, considering obviously the environment that we're having to work within as FPL managers at the moment?
Exactly.
What about Tino, Matt? I think the FPL community adores him, or is that now adored? Has everyone gone off him?
I've still got him. I think his place is pretty much assured. Ralph came out and said that he's young. He'll continue to play, and I've seen him play with Knox at St Mary's. There's been times in the warm-up he's kind of been warming up in front of me, and both of his calves are strapped up, but still cracks on and plays 90 minutes. And I think it's the manner in which he plays. We kind of, if you've got Livramento and KWP either side, there's quite an attacking threat there. Whereas obviously if you've got KWP and Perro, I think it's very one side heavy towards Walker Peters. Perro, he's a good player, but compared to the other two, I think time and time again you'll try and get them into the squad, and that's why I was really surprised at the start of the season. Obviously when Livramento pushed Walker Peters out and Perro was given the nod, but it's good to see them. They're both back in.
3 wins this season, all 1-0.
Yep.
Leeds, Watford, and Villa, and they were within a 4-game period. The other game you had in there was a 2-2 draw against Burnley, and Tino Livramento scored. He nearly scored twice in that fixture, actually. And I think at that point, everybody was on. The one thing I felt at the time was there was a lot of, oh my God, Southampton is so much better defensively. And I was thinking, I'm not really convinced about this in terms of long term. I think the fixtures they've had, Villa were just about to sack their manager. Leeds were very under strength. Watford were about to, I think Claudio Ranieri had just come in, I want to say, maybe.
Yeah, he just signed.
So I think the way the fixtures fell for you at that point was quite nice. Livramento's got 5 points in his last 6 matches, which is a bit concerning. He's certainly gone a long way from the, oh my God, you've got to play him every week. I don't think anybody feels like that now, do they?
No, not at all. Obviously, there was periods where you're seeing people get, 6-10 pointers off the bench. But now, particularly with the run of games that we've got coming up, if you've got him, it's a 4-2, 4-3, then I'd probably hold. I don't think there's that many other options unless you've got money in the bank you'd want to go to. But for me, for this week, for instance, he's going to be first on the bench because I don't see us keeping a clean sheet, and he'll be there to maybe bring in a 1-2 pointer max if anybody misses out because of COVID.
Yeah, understood. I take it you got no intention to sell at the moment.
Nah, I'm going to hold. I'm trying to roll as many transfers as I can. So obviously this week, I think the intention is just to roll. I
made a decision to let go and nick a little bit of value out. It was easier for me because I'd only bought up 4.2. Those who got on at 4.0, I think just stick it out, didn't you? I think. You look further ahead at that kind of period 26 and onwards, and you think, yep, I want some of that. The double in 22 could be nice. It's Newcastle at home in 21, which is a nice fixture as well. So I think for most, it's probably a hold. Those who bought at higher valuation might want to consider moving on, because I think other than if the double happens in 22, you'd only be starting him probably in 21 and 22 of the next sort of 7 game weeks. So he does become expendable, I think. One player I definitely won't be selling, Chris, unless he gets injured, is Jarrod Bowen.
Yeah, no, he's looking good.
He'll play up front. I was obviously impressed with him last night. Took the goal really well. He'll play up front if Antonio's unavailable, won't he?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he sort of played that sort of role last night. I think the difference with him this season to last is his fitness has gone up a notch. He's playing a lot more minutes, and his recovery is better. So he's not maybe needing that rest. There's been times I thought he would have a rest, in the Europa League or something, and he's played. and then he's played the following Sunday, and still. The thing with him is he's still able to do something at the end of the game. He's not completely spent, which makes him appealing. But his goal last night was a really good goal.
I want to say he was the most substitute player last season. If he wasn't, he was very close to it.
Yeah, he was quite often coming off at like 70 minutes or around that sort of mark, wasn't he? But now I think I looked on his average minutes, and I think it's about 88 minutes or maybe something like that.
In games he started, the shortest period he's had on the pitch was 70 minutes against Wolves. And the only game he didn't start this season was away to Manchester City. I mean, he's played 90 minutes the last 4. There was a 6-game period between 5 and 10 where he played 90 minutes every game as well. He's definitely first choice. And I think he's definitely the one now, isn't he? If you want to invest in West Ham in that midfield area over Ben Rama for nows, it feels clear now that it's Jarrod Bowen to me.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Rama, Fornals, they get dropped for whatever reason. Fornals I feel a bit sorry for at times, but in FPL terms, I mean, Bowen is the pretty much nailed on safe bet. You can't get, you can't get any more certainty than that, other than injury. And he will get goals, and he's taking corners on that right hand side. So you've got that in his locker as well. Assists.
Have you got anything, Matt, in your team in midfield that would be of an interest to an FPL manager?
No.
I thought you was going to say that. I look at JWP and his consistency, and I think Jarrod Bowen's like same price, basically.
Yeah, exactly. There are
too many. Really
many.
Make the case of it. The likes of Redmond and that, it's just too frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've seen. I think we've got 7 or 8 wingers, and obviously I'll include Prowse as an attacking asset, effectively trying to fill 2 to 3 spaces. And you've seen now rotation. Everybody was kind of jumping on El Yunusi at the start of the season. He's not really played recently. Gineppo seems to have been, dropped from Arsene Hootel's plans, and with Armstrong obviously missing out, Nathan Teller has been given an option and an opportunity to kind of try and put his foot in the paddle. And you can't pick them week in, week out. That's the problem.
Did a pen take at JWP? Would you say at the moment?
Yeah. Without, to be fair, I think he probably is number 1. There was talk about Adam Armstrong, stepping up to take them. I think he took them. Was it Blackburn before? But yeah, I think Prowse probably the pen taker, and set pieces if you want to target that, sure. But yeah, even the likes of Conor Gallagher, I think, are better options than Prowse at the moment.
You give a free kick away to Southampton 25 yards out. It's the most worrying moment when you play it. It goes over the wall every single time. You still can't stop it. It's a magnificent set piece.
His finish against Palace was brilliant.
And Chris, who would be your pen taker at the moment? Who's first choice? I feel like you've had a few misses and I'm confused.
I don't know. It depends who's on the pitch. I mean, Lanzini took one. He's
Chelsea, quite right. Yeah.
I mean, obviously Lanzini's not going to. You don't know he's going to be playing every game, but he's a decent penalty taker. Who's first choice? I mean, Rice was. I honestly don't know who would be. I'm surprised in a way that Bowen hasn't kind of stepped up and taken him, because I know that people have said before he took him at Hull. So
interesting.
I don't know. But yeah, I guess if Lanzini was on the pitch, he'd probably be the one taking him, but it's just whether or not he plays.
I wonder if there's an influence in that on the fact that he did used to be a 60-minute man, basically. Now he's not. He's probably got more of a claim to put on it. It's interesting. It's just looking, Rice has got more FPL points than any Southampton midfielder.
Doesn't surprise me.
Worth considering at 5.1, Chris.
Yeah, he's not as he's not as bad as people. He's getting. There's a few times last night he was in the box, so he's not just standing on the halfway line and whatever. So yeah, he's taking shots for that sort of price. You could do worse, I guess. I don't think he's not the sort of player that people will actually think, I want him in my team. But every now and again, he's going to pop up with a goal or an assist. But it will be sporadic. It'll be completely random. You don't know when it's going to come. The only advantage is he will play in this current environment. He's going to play. So that's probably his biggest asset.
He's absolutely outstanding, by the way, mate. He drove you on last night.
Yeah,
he's a top level footballer now. I mean this in the nicest way, mate. I don't think he's going to play right at the top of the game. You can tell with the way he's driving the team on.
I mean, it's at the stage now where every season you have him, it's just another season you're glad that you've got him. It's probably, I wouldn't say it's inevitable that he leaves, but there's going to be big offers for him because he's getting he's improving in his game. He's the bits of his game that are weaker, he's improving on. And yeah, if he went to a bigger team, although we are massive, so that might be difficult. But
no, you really want to do that today, mate?
I know I'm a sucker for punishment, but no, I mean, if he did leave, I think a lot of West Ham fans would be absolutely gutted, but he'd be going for big money. So we just have to see. I mean,
it's worth saying no one's suggesting he's going to go anywhere in January. I mean,
no, of course not.
Anybody's got the sort of money that West Ham will want. I mean, 100 million might sound ridiculous, but I mean, every time I watch him, I think you're a better player every single time, and he's really adding those kind of driving runs to his game now as well. He's become almost a complete midfield player, actually. So important. Guys, really appreciate that. Much.
I mean, he beats players as well. So that's good. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he is exactly that. I mean, he's obviously driving with the ball and he can take people on. As I said, he's become a top player. Guys, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great Christmas. Before we let you go, let's do predictions for the game on Boxing Day. Neither of you can say postpone. Don't bottle it. Chris, correct score prediction?
I'll say 2-1. I would have said 3-1 if Antonio was playing, but I'll say 2-1.
Matt?
I'm going to go 2-2 draw. We seem to enjoy those recently.
Desmond, I'm going to go 3-1 West Ham, actually. Stop it, Matt. I'm just feeling a bit of sympathy for this morning. I thought I'd had an extra goal on or so. No, I think at home you're fairly formidable, actually, Chris.
Yeah.
And I always feel, Matt, that you have a day that you don't turn up at places like most teams do in your position in the league. Like you will probably go there and try and win the game of football, which is very admirable. I also think it opens you up for a slap as per sort of the game at Anfield and stuff. And I think Bowen is a great investment for this week, actually, whether he plays through the middle or if Antonio is available and he's on the right. Because I think there's every chance Bowen could play both of those games in 1920. Would you make it this before we finish in terms of playing twice in 2 days?
Horrendous.
It's crazy, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is, yeah.
I don't see how you can expect them to play at their top, at their peak.
Yeah, no, he's not right. He's doubly difficult for yourselves, Matt, playing West Ham and Tottenham's. Whereas, but then the pressure's on you, Chris, because Southampton, I'm and Watford, the way you look at that and go, it's got to be 6 points, and you're going to have to rotate the team a bit as well. So different pressures for each. Chris, where can everyone follow you on Twitter, mate?
FPL_Sky Addict. I actually remembered.
Well done. Good practicing. And Matt?
CS_Wipeout.
What does the CS stand for?
Clean sheet.
Yeah, Southampton are used to them, aren't they? Yeah. Much love, mate. Right, cool. There is no clash of the correspondents next week because with the close arrangement of the fixtures, it's just too difficult to find one and place one in there that's actually going to work. So next Thursday will be our big fat quiz of 2021, which is going to be hosted by Tom Campbell at Utley TC. Clash of Correspondents will be back with 2 podcasts, fingers crossed, ahead of game week 22, which will feature Burnley versus Leicester and Aston Villa versus Manchester United. I'll be streaming on YouTube tomorrow about 3:00 and ahead of the deadline, if it stays in its usual place, on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Thank you both to Chris and to Matt. Happy Christmas, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.